Greetings, my peeps, and welcome to the All Things Basketball Podcast with your boy GD. In this episode, the NBA Draft Lottery, I'll give you the results, some of the top picks that's going to be in the draft. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Also, they're going to have a new draft lottery system. We'll touch on that also. Also, guys, the WNBA, we just had the first weekend of it, and they might have a foul problem I think they need to solve. I'll discuss that more. Draymond Green, as usual, running off at the mouth. So we'll talk about his failed joke on Inside the NBA, and then also some more news sprinkled out. So all that and more. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Okay, guys, it's your boy GD back with the All Things Basketball with GD podcast. And guys, we are in the midst of the playoffs in the NBA. Of course, we're entering the conference finals. That'll be coming upon us soon. And then you have the WNBA right in swing now. The season done started, so we'll touch on that more as far as the games go once we get a few games under our belt. But I did want to touch on the first weekend of it and what I noticed. So we'll talk about that. And then Draymond. This guy, man, he just can't keep from putting his foot in his mouth. So we'll talk about him. And then we had some passings in the NBA family, which we'll talk about also. So all that and more. So with that said, let's get right into it. Top story, the NBA Draft Lottery. So we had the lottery on Sunday, guys. We had it on Sunday on May 10th. So I think it went pretty much how I figured it would go as far as that goes. We'll start from the top and we'll just go down and we'll take it from there. So you have your top team, the Washington Wizards, which again, mind you, this was a top 8 protected pick that could have went to the Knicks if the Wizards would have dropped to like the 9 or higher. So of course they end up getting the number 1 pick, so go figure. But they get it, guys. So you have now in the fold Trae Young, you have Anthony Davis. I think they keep both of them along with this first round pick. Now there's rumors going around saying that it could be traded, the first round pick, because right behind them picking at 2 is Utah. And the top pick, according to every board I've seen, is going to be this kid out of BYU, AJ DeBanster. So you're going to have this kid here, sensational. He led the all of basketball in scoring. This guy did. He's a small forward, 6'9". He has an offensive bag, guys, and the comparisons, they're comparing him to like a Tracy McGrady type. That's the kind of offensive bag this kid has. He shoots it sensational from the field, from the free throw line. Very good. So it looks like, for all intents and purposes, Washington will probably pick this kid. Now, again, Utah is pining for bringing him there, being that BYU, of course, that's local to the state of Utah. So it would be befitting to have this kid play for them. But if Utah wants him, it's going to cost. It's going to cost big time. So it'll cost this, a pick swap from 1 to 2, and then probably along with that, it'll cost them some future draft capital. So will Washington do it? Maybe. I mean, right now, like I said, they have Trey, they have Anthony Davis, they have their young center, Alex Sarr. You still have a Keyshawn George. You have a Julian Reese. So you got some pieces you can move around to make this happen. Because you seems like you're loaded at the as far as bigs go. You still have Will Riley there. You have a Trey Johnson, Bob Carrington. So you have some young pieces there. So what Washington does with this pick, everybody's eyes will be on that. So there you go. So Washington gets the first pick. Then second is Utah. And I'm going to say it how I said it when I did the season wrap for the Utah Jazz. Danny Ainge needs to hit a home run with this pick. He needs to hit a home run. He's been in this lottery for the past, this will be his 5th lottery. So he has to score with this one here. And for all intents and purposes, it could be either Darren Peterson, the guard out of Kansas, or Cameron Boozer. Depends on which way he wants to go in that regard. Provided he doesn't make that trade with Washington. So I would say I don't think it will be Peterson, to be honest with you. I think it could end up being Boozer. I doubt if it's a Khalid Wilson out of North Carolina. I doubt that. But the thing with that is, because you have Jaren Jackson Jr. there, you have a Laurie Marketing there. If you bring in a Boozer, you could play. I guess you could interchange him and Jaren Jackson between the 4 and the 5. So you'd be straight there. You still have an Ace Bailey there. You have a Keontae George. So you have a bit of a backcourt there. Ace Bailey, like I said, Isaiah Collier, Bryce, Sensabaugh. So you have some young pieces, but Danny Ainge has to hit with this now. I think all eyes are on him as well. Like I said, he's been living the life of Raleigh over there, but he's got to score with this pick because the natives are going to get restless over there in Utah. I'm just saying. So that's the story there. And then third will be the Memphis Grizzlies. I could see if Utah were to go the Cameron Boozer route, I could see them then going for Darren Peterson because they need guard help over there. For all intents and purposes, Memphis will likely deal Ja Morant. Where he goes, I have no clue. So you're going to need guard help. You bring in a Darren Peterson. Oh, by the way, a 6'6" guard. He could play on the ball. He could play off the ball. High volume shooter. But of course, the question with him is availability. He compares a lot to a Devin Booker, who you see him in the NBA. He's a guy who can play on and off the ball. So that's who he compares to. But the question with him, will he be available? So, he had the rash of injuries, and then where he axed out of the game and axed out of coming into a game, all those sort of things. So you have this kind of cloud that's over him. I would think once he enters the league, he will straighten up and fly right. That's my thinking on him, but I could be wrong. I want to give the kid the benefit of the doubt. So I'll say once he come into the league, he'll know what's what, as far as that goes. So Memphis in a position to better themselves in the backcourt. Then you have Chicago Bulls. Chicago Bulls right now, they have a Josh Giddey in the fold. They have a Matas Bazelis. And then remember, their pick from a year ago went on the injury reserve list, and he didn't play it at all last year. Noah Essingu. So you have him in the fold. Do you bring in a Khalid Wilson, who he ended up missing the last month of the season, plus the tournament with actually a hand injury, then later a thumb injury. So, but he's a kid who can produce 6'10", excellent from the field, guys, from the free throw line, solid. Pretty much in the same vein as a Cameron Boozer, but a Cameron Boozer actually can stretch you out to the 3-point line. So, but Khalid Wilson, it's a bit of a risk at 4, but I mean, the talent is there, guys. The talent is there for him to succeed. So will Chicago go that route and get him? That remains to be seen. So there's that as far as Chicago goes. And then remember, Chicago is getting themselves a new coach. So bear that in mind, because Billy Donovan is out. So there you go there. And actually, I'll save that for later. And then with the 5th pick, you have the LA Clippers, and they get that via the Indiana Pacers. So the Indiana Pacers actually, I believe this was protected. Was it protected? I believe they got this in the deal for Zubac. So there you go there. But the LA Clippers, you don't know what's going to happen with Kawhi. So there's that. You still have a Darius Garland in the fold, a Ben Mathurin. You have your big Yannick Conan, Niederheiser. So you have him in the fold as well. Right now, you can go combo guard Keaton Wagler out of the University of Illinois. You could go that route with him. He's a 6'6" guard, can play on and off the ball. He raised his stock, guys, with them going to the Final Four. So he's a guy compares to a Tyrese Halliburton. So you kind of like the sounds of that. And then remember, too, with Darius Garland, he has a long laundry list of injuries, injury history, that is. So bear that in mind. So you could go Keaton Wagler here, and that would make sense for your ball club. And this draft actually is probably the best point guard draft in years, guys. A lot of point guards that's available, guys, that can come in and kind of run your show walking into the door. So for teams that's in need, you have a plethora of guys to choose from. So is that the route that the Clippers go? We'll see. Then at 6, you got the Brooklyn Nets. With your only star guy, Michael Porter Jr., and I think he's kind of on thin ice, if you ask me, after him going on the podcast there and kind of saying how he checked out after the All-Star break. So you don't like to hear that out of your player. But so Michael Porter, you still have your 5 first rounders from last year, guys. And Edgar Dimon, Nolan Traore, Ben Sarif, Danny Wolf, and Drake Powell. So you still have those guys in the fold. What do you need? That's the whole thing. What do you need? Again, point guards galore are available, guys. Guys like a Darius A. Cuff Jr. out of Arkansas, also Kingston Flemings out of Houston. Do you reach for a guy like Nate Emmett out of Tennessee? At this point, you don't know where the Nets are leaning towards, so they could go at any direction here, and we'll see what happens as far as that goes. 7th is the Sacramento Kings. I think they're going to rebuild over there, guys. I think a possible rebuild is on the way there. I could see them easily not having a Zach LaVine back, who is a free agent. So there's that. I could see them packaging a DeMar DeRozan, have him on the move. Domantas Sabonis, I'm not sure what they do with him. He's coming off an injury, so there's that. But the Sacramento Kings in need of a lot. I don't think Russell Westbrook comes back for them, so the Kings can go. There's another team that can go a variety of different ways. You still have a Keegan Murray over there, but yeah, so not sure how that goes. At 8, you have the Atlanta Hawks, a pick they got via the New Orleans Pelicans and the DeJounte Murray deal. So it's a young team on the rise, and when you can add a piece, you're doing yourself favors if you can do that. They could easily go point guard here. Any one of these guys that's available, they could go for. Even Michael Brown out of Louisville. He's another guard. Kind of in the same vein of a Darius Garland. He missed his last 6 games with a back injury, so he'd be a risk reward guy as far as that goes. And maybe one of these other guys slide down, Acuff or Flemings. So you have options here. And then at 9, the Dallas Mavericks. So you want to add some talent with Cooper Flagg. I think they could go a point guard route, especially with Kyrie coming off that knee injury. They held him out doing the wise thing, but you're going to want to groom somebody for the future there. So you can pull somebody out of this draft and that be possible. The Milwaukee Bucks, more likely than not, Giannis is on the move. So are you going to rebuild or retool? Because if you deal Giannis, you're going to have to bring some salary back. With that salary, are you bringing back draft capital as well? You would think so. And they can go a guard route if they so choose. So there's that with them. And they have a new coach in the fold, Taylor Jenkins. So maybe Taylor Jenkins wants to start with a point guard that can lead his ball club. Maybe that's the route he goes as far as at this 10th pick. So we'll see what happens there. 11, Golden State Warriors. Now you have Steve Kerr back on a 2-year deal. Do they even keep this pick? That's one question. And the second question, which probably comes before this, with Steve Kerr coming back, do you bring back both Steph and Draymond? Now, Draymond, he's I believe he has a player option, if I'm not mistaken. I will look and make sure. I believe he has a player option, guys. But I'm going to look to make sure that that's the case. Golden State. No, I think he's straight up free agent. If that's the case, if that is the case, I know Porzingis is free agent. I believe he has a player option. Look for you right quick. Golden State. Yes, he has a player option. So more likely than not, you would think he opts in. But again, will they hold on to him? We'll see. So there you go there. And then at 12, OKC, the rich get richer, so they'll get a draft pick coming out of this draft. It'll be a piece you can add to your big three over there of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren. So nice little piece to add. 13th will be the Miami Heat. Now, possibly they're talking about Tyler Hero being on the move, which makes sense because you can make way for a guy like Norman Powell coming into your mix. So that would make all the sense in the world. And then 14, the Charlotte Hornets, who showed you a glimmer of the possible future there with Brandon Miller, Con Knipple, and LaMelo Ball. So maybe you want to add something in the front court, especially at the center position. If something's out there, you definitely want to consider that. So there you go there. All right, guys. And then as far as the draft goes, the draft lottery, the new system that is, here's what they're going to do, guys. They're going with a 3-2-1 system, which means they're going to do it's either 3 lottery balls, 2 lottery balls, or 1 lottery ball. And this is how it shakes out. With 3 lottery balls, that gives you an 8% chance, and that will be between 7 teams. Those 7 teams will be the teams that did not qualify for the playoffs or the play-in, but avoided finishing in with the 3 worst records. So they'll get 3, and then 2 balls will go to 7 teams. Now, these are the bottom 3. The bottom 3 will be included in that. And then there's a draft relegation provision in there to also, I guess, between the teams that didn't finish with the 3 worst records. So not sure how that shakes out. And then your 9th and 10th team, basically the 9th and 10th team in the play-in, they will get 2 lottery balls. And then 1 ball will go to 2 teams, and that's the loser of the play-in games between the 7th and 8th seed in each conference. So the 9th and 10th in each conference will get 2 lottery balls, and then the loser of the 7th and 8th seed will get 1 lottery ball, which gives them a 2.7% chance. With the 2 balls, 5.8% 4%. Also, along with that, they're proposing also that no team will be able to win the top pick 2 years in a row, which we know that's happened in the history of the lottery, where you had Orlando get the top pick 2 years in a row with Shaq and with Chris Webber. So that will no longer happen. And then no team will be able to win 3 consecutive top 5 picks. Wow. Interesting. Teams also will not be able to protect picks in the 12 to 15 slots going forward. I don't think they should be able to protect your picks at all, but what do I know? Yeah, so those sort of changes are being applied to this draft here, to the draft coming up. I should say that. So there you go there. So they say the owners will vote on this. They're going to vote on this and see if the owners agree to this change. So it's not a fait accompli, guys. There's still some things that have to be done in order for this to happen. So bear that in mind also. So, all right. So that is the draft lottery stuff. Let us continue on. Draymond Green. Now, guys, a few episodes ago, I talked about how he talked about Steve Kerr. If you forgot that, I can replay that, what he said about Steve Kerr. Yeah, in fact, yeah, let me do that. Let me go right back to the stuff he said as far as Steve Kerr goes. That was a while ago, so I gotta dig that out. So give me a second, guys. Or should I just search it? Michael Day said, no. Oh, okay. That, I don't think it was that far back. Hang on 1 second. Here it is. That's Barkley. Him talking about Barkley. So I will play that. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right, so I have to do this the old-fashioned way. Steve Kerr. Okay, so I will play again for you what Steve Kerr had, what he had to say about Steve Kerr. So, okay.
Well, a part of me thinks he's hindered me in my career and what I could have become. But what he's also helped me become. Like, take the good with the bad, man. You know, when I think of who I was offensively as a player, who I became, I think a part of that is due to him. Hold that against him. I'm forever grateful that he still put me in a position to be successful and that I could become Draymond Green despite my offensive role on our team. So when KD came from 2016 on, I have not had a play in our playbook. Not a single play that would run for me in our playbook. This is 2016. You think that would hinder someone as an offensive player? Of course. So at times I go home and I think about my career and I'm happy as hell of what I've been able to build. But at times, sometimes I sit there and think, what could I really have been if I stayed true to my game and what I really was? You know,
So,
when I think of who I was, a part of me thinks he's hindered me in my career and what I.
okay, enough. So you heard the nonsense.
When I think of who I was, a part of me.
So you heard that nonsense, right? So Austin River goes on Dan Patrick's show and he asks him about that. And he basically gives him his kudos, he gives him his props, but he's like every sane person. He's saying that you kind of delulu with that, Draymond, saying that this man hindered you. So, of course, Draymond, being the thin-skinned person he is, goes after Austin Rivers. He talks about them, being in the same draft, how he didn't live up to expectations, and how he was given a stimulus package by his father, who was the coach at the LA Clippers, when he got that deal in free agency. So, this is Draymond. He has thin skin. He can't take criticism, which we're building to that, by the way. So, so he goes after him, and then Austin Rivers hits him right back where he lives, and that sound I have, and I will play for you. Yeah, it's about a minute and a half long. So here we go.
Draymond, this is ridiculous. Seriously, ridiculous. But you know what? I'm going to address it because you crossed the line and you are mad disrespectful for whatever reason. You've been around too long. We both were drafted in the same class. The fact that you don't have the wherewithal to do your due diligence and actually understand I was being highly complimentary of you on the show, but it's you. I shouldn't be surprised. You always act irrationally, emotionally immature, and your anger always puts you in water. So here I am having to address a video of you belittling my career. First off, Draymond, we weren't the same players in high school. I don't care about our numbers being similar. I did it at the national level, the top level. Hence why I got the Naismith Award, and I got pretty much every award you could think of in high school. I was ranked number one. You were ranked, I don't know. So next, you were you're actually a really good college basketball player, but it's hard to compare because I was only there for 6 months. Something you could never do. I was, one of the featured guys. No, I was the guy. I led my team in scoring. I was first team All ACC, freshman player of the year, lottery pick. Stop. Next. Yeah. Hey, man, you got it, Dre. I mean, listen, I played in the NBA for more than 10 years, more than a decade, but 11 years, but I'm not a Hall of Famer like you. So I'll give you that credit. All right, you got it. But let's peel back that onion and understand why. Easy, Tiger. Okay? Listen, you have the delusion, the non-wherewithal, the irony of you saying I'm part of the biggest bailout in NBA history. Draymond, you are the luckiest basketball player I think I've ever seen, especially in modern day history. Let's talk about that. You were drafted to a franchise with the Hall of Fame. Dude, you had to know.
So, yeah. So basically, he goes on to say he was drafted on a team with a Hall of Fame backcourt, and then they bring in KD, and you know the rest. So, but this is Draymond. His skin is so thin that it's ridiculous. So now, with the background of all that, he goes on inside the NBA. Shaq is out, so he fills that seat. So here's the discussion between him and the panel there, because they're talking about the Warriors and how things look for the future as far as that goes. And it's just I will get in its totality. Okay, I think it's here. Okay, here we go, guys. This is the exchange between Barkley and eventually Draymond.
Always is. Sports, listen, sports are for young people. You hope to have a great long career, but sports, nobody wins when they're 37, 38. But you said what you said. I didn't want to hear if he believes what you're talking. Yeah, I mean, I think the goal is just to not look like you in the Houston Rockets uniform. Yeah, it's ultimately the goal for us. Like, we don't want to. What does that look like? Did you see it? I'm asking. I thought. I mean, so we're always going to try to compete. When you win championships, the goal will always be to try to reach that level. Can we get back to that level? Listen, to your point, Jimmy's going to miss a lot of next year. Moses is going to miss.
I've heard enough. So, you know me, I'm going to do my deep dive, and we're going to look at what Barkley did during his Houston stay. Just the human Draymond. He played there for 4 seasons. And this is what he did while he was there. He actually got MVP votes in his first year there. He scored over 19 points per game, averaging 13.5 rebounds. The following season, 15 over 15 points per game. And along with that, he averaged nearly 12 rebounds. Year 3, over 16 points per game, over 12 rebounds. His last year there, 14 points, 14.5 points, and 10.5 rebounds. Oh, by the way, out of an 82-game season, those 4 years he played 53 games his first season there, 68 games his second season there, 42 games his third season there, and then 20 in his fourth season. He was hindered by back injuries, so taken from someone who watched and saw, he dealt with back injuries in those years there. So, should you cut him slack for that? Absolutely, you should. You should cut him slack for that. And as far as the playoffs go, let's look at what he did in the playoffs. In the playoffs with the Rockets, that first year there, they made it to the Western Conference Finals against the eventual team that went to the finals, the Utah Jazz, in a 6-game series. The following season, they got knocked out the first round by Utah. The following season, got knocked out by the Lakers. And then his last season there, which he only played 20 games, they did not make the playoffs. So I say all that to say, Draymond, those numbers I recited, you don't even approach numbers like that. So what are we even talking about? And then, of course, he explains it away because the heat is coming now. Everybody's coming down on him. Even this buddy, Stephen A. He's come down as well. It's saying that he was wrong. So everybody's coming after him. The guys on The Odd Couple, Nick Wright as well. Nick Wright, I mean, he nails him. He absolutely nails him. If I do, I have that sound. Yeah, but that was kind of a longer talking that he did. Yeah, so, and then of course you get people like, oh gosh, you get people like Reggie Miller, because Dan Patrick asks him, whose career would you rather have? Carmelo Anthony's or Draymond Green's? And of course, Reggie Miller already being a Hall of Famer, so he picks Draymond Green because of the rings, which we're in that thing now. It's ring culture, mind you. Melo falls under one of the greatest scorers we've seen in the 21st century, to be honest with you. So there's that. And, he has moments. But, that's the thing we're living in, guys. So that's where we are. So that's where we are with that. But, yeah. Maybe I can play some of it. Let me see.
I feel like all I have to say for this one is Draymond Green was on the Inside the NBA show last night. You might have ruined the expectations for Golden State fans. He said success might not be for us at this point, and at this point, a championship. You also cut Barkley saying that the hopes are to just not look like you did in the Houston uniform.
I'll just sum it up. Nick Wright, he says he's wrong for this. He says, yeah, in essence, no good for you, which I agree with. But I'll play you the last bit of sound that I have. This is Draymond explaining himself as far as what he said to Barkley. Explaining himself. Listen to this dribble. I couldn't believe this. I could not believe this. I'm not going to play the whole sound, but yeah. Here we go.
The reason that I would even say that, right? Like, it'd be very stupid to be like, yeah, Chuck, when you were in Phoenix, I wouldn't want to look like that. Or your first couple years in Houston, I wouldn't want to look like that. That'd be stupid, actually. However, what Chuck makes fun about in his career is actually the last 2 years in Houston. Chuck's last 2 years in Houston, it's what he talks about. It's what he say. Yeah, I suck, man. I was out of shape. I was hurt. I sucked. But I was going to get that free money. That's what he says. So what I found interesting was how everybody tried to make it like this whole, oh, man, Draymond think he better than Chuck. I found that interesting because what it shows is how bad y'all want me to do bad. That's what it really shows is how much y'all want to see me fall. And I find it interesting because I've been up against that my whole life. But I find it very interesting how much y'all want to see me fall. And that's good. I think that's amazing for everyone that does, because if you're spending time trying your hardest to make me fall, What are you doing with your life? How's that going?
Okay, enough. Draymond, read the room. Read the room. What the hell, man? What the hell? First of all, okay, Barkley makes fun of the last 2 years, and he says that. That means it's okay for you to do it, and then for it to fall flat. And he said that Kenny called him and said, "Oh, he didn't hear the joke." And I'm like, first of all, I don't believe that anyway, but that's what he's saying. That Kenny didn't hear the joke, so that's why he couldn't respond to it. So, which I don't understand, but Draymond. Now you want to double back and say, because Barkley made fun of himself about it, I have a license to make fun of him about it. Y'all ain't like that. Y'all ain't like that. And then the whole thing was, it got real uncomfortable after that because Barkley didn't say a word for the rest of that segment. He didn't say one word. So supposedly they went out for drinks or what have you, and then Draymond's mother called and said, "You got beef with Draymond?" And she's like, "No, I'm out here at the bar with him." So I don't know what to believe with Draymond, to be honest with you. But this is what happened when you run your mouth. When you run your mouth, then comes the apology tour. Like they had to do with Steve Kerr when you threw him under the bus. It almost had the man not get his contract that he got right now. So there's that. But Draymond, come on, man. Come on. And I don't know what's going to happen with the Warriors next season. He does have the player option. He can opt in. But I tell you what, I would not be stunned if they say, maybe we go in a different route. I won't be stunned. But the thing with that is, and me and friend of the show, D, talked about this. Can another coach Draymond in the league outside of Steve Kerr? That's a legitimate question. And we both pondered that question. And I'm like, I don't know. I really don't know. I think it has to be a coach with credibility, like a Eric Spoelstra, like a who else? I would even put Chris Finch in there. I'll put them in there. It won't be Cleveland because Cleveland don't need them. But and to be honest, Minnesota wouldn't need them. But unless you're doing like a Julius Randle, maybe you're tired of his, shortcomings in the playoffs and you bring in a Draymond, maybe, I don't know. But, yeah, so it has to be a coach with credibility because otherwise I think he'll run roughshod over anybody else. Or Mike Brown, someone he respects. It has to be a coach like that. Otherwise, it's going to be a mess wherever he goes. So I'm just saying, Draymond, wake up and smell the coffee. That's all I'm going to say with that. So I'm going to leave it alone. All right, guys. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about, I'll save the passings. But the WNBA, they had their weekend. They played, thus far, they played 14 games. Out of those 14 games, guys, they've had 40 or more fouls called in 10 of the 14 games. 10 of the 14 games. And I want to play some sound for you from two people, if I can. I want to hear from Nafisha Collier. I believe I saved that. Yes, I did. and then Breonna Stewart. This is Nafesia Collier talking about the physicality in the league. I want you to listen to this.
I do feel like the game is too physical right now. I think that's been a complaint of players and coaches alike for the past several years. We've been compared to the NBA of the 80s and just our physicality. And I do think that hinders the players, obviously. Like, you come to watch players play offense and to score. And so when it's so physical, the game's not fun to watch and it's not fun to play. I think we're competitors. I mean, we want to win. And if the rules allow, we're going to kill each other to get there, you know? So I just think the rules need to change in that regard. So it's safety for others and it's a better experience for the fans as well.
Now, when you say the rules need to change, it's not just a matter of straight reffing. You want different rules.
I think it's both. I mean, I think it's both. I think consistency in reffing is the number one thing that we ask for every year. Also, I think the game right now is catered to the defensive player because you always hear like defense wins championships, and it does. But in my opinion, like, I think that it should be catered to the offensive player because that's why you play basketball.
Okay. So you heard Nafesia talk about the refereeing in the WNBA. I think the key in there, not what she said about the offensive player, I think you got to call it both ways, is consistency. Consistency in the refereeing, right? So you heard her say that. Now we come to Breonna Stewart. She played in the game on Sunday on May 10th, I'm sorry. And I watched the game. There were 58 fouls called in the game. Mind you, it went to overtime, so maybe you would have had less than 50, maybe it been around 50 or so, but 58 fouls called. So I want you to hear what Breonna had to say, what Stewie had to say in that regard. Listen to this.
Does that maybe disrupt a team's game? Felt pretty clunky. I guess how frustrating maybe is that stop and go nature of it, and I guess how does that maybe disrupt a team's flow?
I mean, it disrupts everyone's flow. Like, not just selfishly talking about my team. Both sides of the game. This game was 2 hours and 41 minutes long. Like, that's insane. And like we said it last game. I know it's gonna take time of like figuring out what's the standard of what's gonna be called, but there's calls that are being called that are like unnecessary on both sides. And then there's no flow. So I still don't know.
So that's her talking about the 58 foul game. So here's the thing. I think she's right. There has to be a delicate balance in the foul calling. The ticky-tack stuff, you can let that slide. But you can't let a game get too physical. I mean, I think, for example, the Connecticut and Indiana game last year where, you know, you had Marina Marbury pushing Caitlin, and then you had Sophie Cunningham go after J.C. Sheldon and all this and that, and it just got out of hand. So I think there's an instance where you got to reel that in. But in the same breath, you can't stop the game. She said the game was almost 3 hours long. A standard WNBA game, 2 hours long. 2 hours and you're out of there. Because it's usually a flow to it. But when you're calling fouls, you're stopping the clock, then you're going to the review when a team challenges. That takes time. So then you have the officials going to it when neither team calls for a review. That takes time. So there has to be a cleaner way to do things as far as the refereeing goes. Again, maybe this is an aberration. This is the weekend. They're working out the kinks. This is the first weekend of the league playing, so they're working out the kinks, and things will be smoother from here on out. But I think this was a bad look as far as the refereeing goes. So there you go there. All right, guys. So we'll just leave that where it is. Thank you for listening. As always, all things basketball with gd.com is the website. There you find my clips, my full episodes as well, my YouTube page, more of the same, full clips, full episodes and clips. Also, guys, on podcast platforms, I'm on all of them. Wherever you find podcasts, I'm there. Also, guys, donate. 3 buttons on the website to donate. Buy me a coffee, PayPal, Spotify donate. And then scroll, as always, I have my Cash App, $GD-ThatSportsDude. Again, $GD-ThatSportsDude. Also, guys, write to the show. All things basketball GD at outlook.com. Write the show. I'll read your emails on the show. You have any ideas, anything out there, I'll read it. And we'll take it from there. Social media, some Facebook, some TikTok, mostly Instagram and TikTok. Wait, I think I said that wrong. Some Facebook, some Blue Sky, mostly TikTok and Instagram. Okay, I think I got it there. All right. I thank you for listening. As always, your listenership is so important to what we do with this show. Much appreciated. And we will talk soon. Probably with the conference finals preview. That will be upcoming in the short future. Thank you for listening. We'll talk soon. Take care.